Would you agree that one of our biggest challenges promoting AeroSeal is simply low consumer awareness? Hardly anyone we serve has ever even heard of it before, right? And isn't it pretty rare for a homeowner to even understand that ducts leak a lot, or the impacts that leakage has on comfort, health, efficiency, and utility bills? So what's the best way to educate our homeowner clients about technical topics like duct leakage and AeroSeal? It sure is tempting to just vomit the features and benefits at them, isn't it? But how well does that work? Well, let's flip the situation around. Have you ever had a client who just goes on and won't stop talking and you begin to tune out? So are you possibly guilty of doing the same thing to them? Would you agree that keeping people's eyes from glazing over on you when you're trying to educate them is one of our biggest challenges? So again, what's the best way to transfer new facts about leaky ducts? For sure, showing actual visual proof of their leakage and fact sheets on what the authorities say is very helpful, isn't it? But apart from that visual approach, what's the best way to impart information verbally? You do know that you have to avoid technical jargon, right? And that analogies and stories are an awesome way to keep things simple and engaging. But what about getting the hard facts across to your clients? Is there a better way than just telling them? Well, did you know that it's pretty easy to rephrase any factual statement into a more engaging question? Did you know that questions aren't just for discovery, for you to get answers about issues like their pains and goals? Were you aware that you can convey at least as much information with questions as you can by making statements? Do you suppose one reason that's so is because people feel obligated to pay more attention when they're being asked a question? That asking them questions keeps them from tuning out on you? And so does it make sense that because they stay more awake and attentive, conveying facts in a question format could actually be more effective than simply making statements? Wouldn't you agree that the best questions are ones that make people think? And finally, does it make sense that the very best questions are ones that help guide your clients to reach the right conclusion, that they should get their ducts sealed using AeroSeal? Do you believe it would be to your advantage to master how to convey information in the form of questions? When we get back, shall we roll up our sleeves and learn how to do that? Were you aware that I just asked you 26 questions in a row without making a single statement? And would you also agree that 26 in a row was a bit unnatural and probably overkill? For sure, don't go overboard with non-stop questions when with your clients. But let me ask you this. Did I keep your attention? Did I convey information? Did I make the point? So let's get down to it. Today, I'll share with you a simple tactic to share technical information about duct leakage and sealing using questions instead of statements. We'll cover another one in our next lesson. This technique number 1 is to transform a straightforward factual statement into a question. You do this by simply adding a phrase to the beginning like, "Were you aware that?" or "Did you know that?" And you say it all in a questioning tone. So here's an example. A straight factual statement would sound like this. Mary, the Energy Star scientists have discovered that in a typical house, 20 to 30% of the air that moves through the ducts is lost due to leaks. Not bad. It's good that we referenced a third-party authority, but here's a way to make it much more engaging, much more likely to keep their attention and really land right. We'll transform it by just adding a few words at the beginning, like this. Mary, did you know that the Energy Star scientists have discovered that in the typical house, 20 to 30% of the air that moves through the ducts is lost due to leaks? Did you know that? And of course, you ask it with a questioning tone throughout, ending with a slight upward inflection. You're sending the subtle message. It may sound hard to believe, but it's true. And because it's a question, you'll almost always get some kind of feedback from your client, an indication of their acceptance or skepticism about the fact you just shared. Usually they admit, no, they didn't know that, but now they do. And even if they don't actively respond to your question, it will always make them think. So what are some of these prefix type phrases? My four favorites are, did you know that, da da da, were you aware that, da da da, has anyone shared with you yet that, da da da, and while you were doing your research, did you come across the fact that, da da da. Depending on the context, sometimes it makes more sense to reverse it like this. So you didn't know that? So you weren't aware of that? So nobody has shared with you yet that? So in your research, you haven't yet come across the fact that? This prefacing technique works especially well when you combine it with a reference to a third-party authority like Energy Star or the Department of Energy. So here's another example. Which of the following is more engaging and persuasive? You could make the factual statement that, John, duct leakage is the #1 reason some air conditioners just can't keep up on hot days. Or, to make it more engaging, you could turn it into a question and reference actual third-party hard research. John, were you aware that according to the Department of Energy, duct leakage is the #1 reason air conditioners just can't keep up on the hottest days? Here's number 3. Has anyone shared with you yet that? Say you're running a competitive replacement equipment estimate, and you know they've already gotten 2 other quotes. Your inspection uncovers that their attic return ductwork, or their building cavity returns, are sucking some hot attic air into their system. Instead of just asserting that's bad for their air conditioning performance, say, John and Mary, has anyone shared with you yet that utility researchers for the Governor's Energy Office in Florida discovered that if an air conditioner sucks just 10% of its return air in from a hot attic, that reduces its efficiency and output by 30%? So the prefix again is, has anyone shared with you yet? And when they admit no one else has told them that important third-party information, you've just put a torpedo into your competitor's credibility. My fourth version is what I call the while doing your research technique. You could say, Bob and Betty, did you know that Energy Star says the average new 16 SEER system actually only works like a 12 because of pre-existing duct issues and installation errors? And that's really good phrasing, but sometimes it makes sense to use the while doing your research version, which goes like this. Bob and Betty, I'm just curious, while you guys were doing your internet research on how to buy a new system, did you come across the fact that Energy Star says the average new 16 SEER rated system typically only works like a 12 because of pre-existing duct issues and installation errors? So the key words to add are, while you guys were doing your internet research on how to buy a new system, did you come across the fact that? This version is more obviously useful when you've already discovered that they have been doing research, but it also works when you don't know. Your assumption that they are smart, research-oriented consumers sets a silent expectation, one that many will feel almost guilty they aren't meeting. So when you ask if it would be helpful for you to share and explain that third-party information, pretty much everyone says, yes, please. Okay, so that's all for now on our first broad technique of educating using questions. Today you learned 4 examples of how to give information in a question form by adding a few words to a factual statement and to deliver it instead as a more engaging question. Of course, repetition is the key to your retention and learning. So be sure to listen to the audio track for this lesson and complete the Windshield University practice file as you drive around. There's also an editable talk track handout to help you practice and role play the suggested wording. On part 2 of this mini-series, we're going to look at what a Greek philosopher from almost 3,000 years ago can teach us about how to educate our clients with questions. Thanks for being an AeroSeal dealer, and I'll see you on the next lesson.